What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So I did actually want to talk about the new Lockdown game mode here in Unbound. I was actually going to go over pretty much a quick rundown of how it works and also my honest thoughts on the game mode itself. So the first thing I'm going to talk about here is probably going to be obvious. I know players are wondering about it. Well, Blocked, how does Lockdown actually work? Like when I jump in there, what do I do? So funny thing is, I actually played a few rounds of it and I was a bit confused and I was like, wait a minute. This is actually really simple, man. Funny thing is, though, when I did do a couple of matches in it, I actually had a few different rounds, even in the last few days, where I would jump in and there'd be no other squads in the entire lobby. Like, it's basically just the random crew that I'm in, and the entire map is yours to play around in. In fact, I have to admit, it's pretty fun that way. Like, you mess around with the police, you pretty much go grab the money and stuff like that, which I'm actually going to break this down a tad more here in a second. I actually found that a bit funny though, because I jumped into the lobby and I was like, yo, there's nobody here. So my squad and I basically broke apart, drove around the entire map, grabbed money, did what we had to do. We lost police, got better cars or whatever. And then we were all pretty much good to go, even though one did get down. He did end up leaving. But I have to admit though, it was actually pretty dang entertaining being the only squad in the entire lobby. Like, they probably should have had a design like that to where you could jump in, not have like the PvP type to it, because I was actually in a few lobbies with other players. It was pretty dope, but I do feel like people might be like, yo, can we go into like a private match or something with my two friends? I feel like that would be a pretty dope feature to add into something like Lockdown. Now here I do want to break down how the game mode actually works, guys, and again, it's really simple. You basically spawn in. The first thing you're probably going to do if you are driving a slower B-rated vehicle is you're probably going to look for like an A or an A+, which are going to spawn in as the match does go on. Later on, you can even find S-rated vehicles as well that are, of course, going to be quicker, and that's probably going to help in different police chases when the thing does go up, because when you actually spawn in, it's going to start on heat level 1, then basically progress as the actual match does go on. You're then going to probably find like the weapons scattered around, like the EMP or like the electrostatic field thing. You can pick those up. You'll then have weapons if you will have to use them. Then you're also going to notice the number one thing around is probably going to be money in crates everywhere. That is actually one of the most important things you are going to need because, well, the lockup itself is going to be in multiple different locations around the map. They are going to spawn in, I do believe, as the map does actually progress, at least what I noticed. And at least when I was playing, I did notice around 3, 4, even 5 different locations for the lockups. When you actually get to one of those, though, you're probably going to notice there might be vehicles in them. There's also normally a lot of money in them. I think around 30, maybe $40,000, even more at certain times in those. Sometimes you might go to a lockup and there's going to be no vehicles in them. Other times, well, you're going to find one of the vehicles you might actually need for a contract. You can grab it. Funny thing is, guys, the first vehicle I actually found extracted it. Guess what it was? It was the BMW M3, the #1 blacklist car. I laughed so hard. That was the first car I got. And by the way, when you actually grab them, you get to keep the cars you do end up extracting, which is pretty dope. Like, no matter what car you actually grab in one of those boxes, you can keep it. So that could be a pretty dope way to collect a bunch of cars if you want. And you can also go around to different lockups and grab different vehicles. Now, here's the thing, though. With the lockups, though, there's only two ways to get into them. Number one is probably going to be fairly obvious, and that is going to be the BMW S1000RR motorcycle, which you will notice will end up popping up on your screen as like a small bike icon that's scattered around the map. The issue with this, though, is when it does pop up, everybody else can see it, including your crew members, and they're probably going to want to go and grab that said vehicle, which again is cool, but I think it's a bit frustrating because then guess what you have to do? If you don't have a motorcycle, man, you have to go collect money around the map. The only way to get into a lockup is with $100,000. It might not sound like a lot, but you normally only get around 5 to 6,000 most of the time in most of the areas. So pretty much grab as many as you can. And what I would end up doing though is pretty much grabbing as many crates as I possibly can in each area. And also they do end up respawning sometimes, so you can grab it again, then sometimes again right after it, because I noticed the spots will respawn as the match does end up progressing. The issue with the motorcycle, I have to admit, is once that thing spawns in, well, everybody is going to want to grab that, including your crew members. The only good thing is, though, if you're actually in a lobby with your crew members, then yeah, everyone's probably going to be like, oh, I want it. Kind of like that episode from SpongeBob when all the fish go into like the Krusty Krab. It's probably like that. Everybody wants it. The thing is, though, I actually noticed a way, guys, and also they will respawn again or spawn in different areas, even if one of your crew members is riding one or other players actually have it, so they will respawn a good amount. The other way you can actually get one, which is hilarious, is I did end up going to a different lockup, and the motorcycle was sitting in that lockup that one of my other crew members got, And a better way to actually word that though is to probably say one of your crew members ended up having a motorcycle before. They go to that said lockup, they go in there, they take a vehicle or they jack it, then they do end up leaving. So if you actually go to that lockup, you can actually grab their bike, then head to a different lockup and grab a vehicle. Now, I do understand this probably sounds a tad confusing, guys, and the one thing I did notice, though, is being in a lobby with only the crew members and nobody else being in there, then yes, this was probably a lot easier to do. The best way I can actually recommend it, though, is everybody's going to go after the motorcycles, so what I would actually say to do is to pretty much get as much money as you possibly can. Get over $100,000, head to one of the lockups, grab a car that you want. You can even go to a different lockup, guys, if you don't like the car that the other lockup had in it. Like, I actually went to one that had a white Testarossa. I was like, nah. Ended up going to a different lockup on the other side of the map and grabbing a Nissan GTR. I was like, yo, this thing I want. Ended up extracting that, and then boom, I ended up keeping that vehicle. So do not be afraid to go to like a different lockup if that one did not have cars you actually wanted. That's also going to be a good way to look at it. But I would actually definitely say go after money that's spread around the map because it is legitimately everywhere. And some places actually get you more. Like, again, if you actually go into a lockup, you can probably get yourself over 40 to 50,000 pretty much instantly. There's going to be a crate in there for like 25, 15, sometimes even 15 again, and boom, you're pretty much going to get most of that money back instantly. Again, though, I would actually recommend just driving around picking it up. For me, it took maybe around 5 to 7 minutes to grab it, and then after that, though, I was looking around my map to see if I can find a lockup, go search that, see if I like the car, grab the car, lose the police and all that, and then wait for the actual extraction truck to end up spawning in, which they will keep spawning in throughout the entire match if you're wondering. But if you guys are in a crew member, you can actually leave in that truck with your crew members. So yes, if you go over to it and your crew member gets it, now you will have to go in the truck. You'll see like a circle, pretty much stay next to it, then you're going to end up owning it. The police or other players can knock you out of that circle and stuff if there's actually other players in there. And if you actually do end up losing the police like I did, you could pretty much go to the truck, hang out, and once it actually says owned, you then end up leaving and you get the car. Now, there's also something else I did want to talk about real quick, guys, that has to do with taking vehicles from the lockup. So right now, you're going to notice that I am currently in the lovely LaFerrari, right? This was actually one of the vehicles you had to take that was a hot ride. That is the biggest thing, though. When you are doing the lockdown game mode, you can actually find other players' vehicles in these said lockups around the map. The thing is, though, you don't actually get to keep them. Yes, it might sound a bit weird, but here's the thing, guys. You actually have a 24-hour timer with that said vehicle. So when you actually jump into something like, let's say you actually steal something like this car, right? If you did actually get that car and somebody else's car was there, which let me find it real quick. Let me fly through. Okay, guys, perfect example right here. Jacked ride. So if you do have one of these, you have a 24-hour window with this car. This is obviously not my vehicle, so if you were to get this thing, you're pretty much only going to have a full day to use this thing in the lockup game mode. After that, the car is going to be gone, though, so at least you can use it. And I do actually think the other player might lose the vehicle, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But I was noticing people talking about this everywhere. So if you actually are taking like Regueras and all kinds of cars, there's a high chance that you're not going to be able to keep them because they're not hot rides. A hot ride is going to be something like the LaFerrari here that is actually part of like the blacklist thing. Don't I also have a BMW somewhere? I also have an M3 as well. Is that it? And I also have this car, guys. This was also a blacklist vehicle. So all the blacklist cars, if you take them, let me go to contracts here. Blacklist cars, guys. If you take any of these vehicles here, okay, any 15 of these cars, you legit can keep all of these. The thing is, though, if it is somebody else's car in that said lockup, it is not yours. So you're only going to have 24 hours with that said car. Do keep that in mind. I was seeing a lot of people going, yo, I got a Regera, I got all these cars, man. The thing is, though, you're not going to be able to keep them. It is pretty much going to be like, yo, this dude's car is pretty dope. Maybe I'll buy this thing after. And also, there's a quick note because I do feel like some of this is probably going to be a tad confusing. You guys are probably going to notice the LaFerrari I have here, right? Well, funny thing is, that was actually not the vehicle I did have in the contracts, though. You guys know how I was showing this before, and I was like, I recently got the lovely LaFerrari. The thing is, though, that wasn't the blacklist LaFerrari, though. The one I actually have is going to be a different one, but when I do show the footage in the background, that Ferrari is also going to be a said hot ride. So as long as you guys are actually taking a hot ride, which you will know it's going to be a hot ride by the insignia on your map, or when you're actually taking that vehicle, you're going to see like a burning tire on your profile thing, which again, I will show this in the background when I was taking this LaFerrari. So it doesn't technically have to be a blacklist vehicle, but it does have to be a hot ride. So you can go into those said lockups and take people's cars if you want, but if it doesn't have that like burning tire insignia on that thing, then well, you're only going to have that vehicle for a said 24 hours. I would say a lot of players are getting a tad confused on that. Now, there is going to be a lot of cars that are part of the hot ride guys. I think I saw maybe it was 45, could be wrong. So there's a lot of them in there. So yes, you can actually get a lot of vehicles from this game mode. Funny thing is, I did manage to get a LaFerrari, what is this card, like $2 million for free. So I see that as a huge win. Again, if you guys are going to the lockups, make sure that vehicle is part of the hot ride thing. When you take it, look for that burning tire insignia on your profile. If it is, get to that extraction truck and get out so you guys can actually keep it. Also, if you want to steal some players' cars and try them out, that's also a way to do it, because you're also going to have the streak thing when you're taking vehicles to use higher leveled ones when going into the extraction game mode. But if your teammate did end up grabbing a truck, though, you will have a time limit, but once you reach that, you pretty much go up to it and you can extract instantly. Of course, as long as they do actually own it or they were near it long enough to then own the truck and extract themselves. So I would actually say the game mode itself is really fun. Like, I do enjoy it. I feel like there's a lot of cars you can grab. It's actually pretty dope, to be honest. Like, I feel like players are going to jump in. They're probably going to enjoy it. The only issue I have, though, is I do feel like long-term players are probably going to play this stuff, get the cars and all that. And again, it's going to be a great way to get more cars because I think they're adding more vehicles into it on like a weekly basis or whatever. So you're probably going to see different cars in like the lockups and all that. So at least if you're actually trying to collect cars, this could be a great way to get them and not actually buy them, because you'll then get the car, you can add upgrades to it, and then use it for whatever you want. So I would say it's probably going to be like a win-win for a lot of people. But again, though, long-term, I don't know, man. I feel like players might enjoy this for a bit, and then they're going to be like, okay, well, what's next? Let me go do some playlists and all that, right? I do think the game mode's pretty dope. I'm also glad it's separated. I was going to be kind of annoyed if they, like, took over all of free roam with that, but no, they are separated. If you're going to do lockup, the entire map's going to be designed for it, which, by the way, on the map, you're probably going to notice areas that are going to have, like, a storming type of thing that you would probably see in, like, a battle royale. That is actually going to be the area where your car will end up getting damaged, but the motorcycle doesn't get damaged in those. They normally have more loot and stuff, more weapons. You can also normally find lockups in those as well, guys, so do keep an eye out for them. They're pretty hard to miss because they normally show up on the map pretty frequently, and they also take over like an area as well. And you can, of course, see the really big blue thing all over the map when you get near it, so it's kind of hard to miss. But do keep in mind, though, your car is going to lose health a bit when you actually go into it. So if you do want to actually go into that zone, make sure your car is full health or at least have a good amount of health on it. Don't go in there with your car being like one hit, would probably not be a great idea. You know, and that's probably the thing though, like I do really enjoy this game mode. I actually think it's pretty dang entertaining, man. Like if players jumped into it, they probably would like it. There's going to be a bunch of cars you can take and you can actually keep them and unlock them that way and also upgrade them and all that. But at the same time though, well, when you do jump into this game mode, I feel like people are going to be like, what do I do? And I would say overall, once they keep playing it will probably become very simple. The overall game mode, I would actually say, is a lot more simple than I thought it was. The only thing is, though, once you actually extract most of the cars and do most of the things, though, I do feel like a lot of players are not going to have a reason to play lockup. At least that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I have been playing it the past few days. I got a bunch of cars extracted. I've been having a lot of fun on it. But I also admit, though, I feel like players might jump in and go, I mean, it's kind of cool. The cars are locked up. Most of the cars, or actually all of the cars, are going to be special variants of other cars that are already in the game, which is not surprising because I know every single racing game does something like that. Like, they're going to say new cars being added, but it's pretty much the same version of every other car in the game, which is kind of new, but kind of not. But regardless, though, once people actually grab most of the cars, like, okay, so I'm going to do some of the playlists now, right? I just feel like that's what's going to happen, man. Like, if you're a veteran player, you're probably going to enjoy it for a bit. You might jump in, maybe squad up with some friends would be insanely fun, and then that's probably going to be it. Like, I don't know how long this game mode's going to last. I would say it will last a couple of weeks at least, but I do feel like long-term, most players are not going to be playing lockup in the future. But on a more positive note, though, even with all that being said, I would actually say the initial gameplay of the actual new mode is pretty dope, man. Like, I really do feel like people would like it. It's actually like a crazy extraction BR type of thing. It's pretty dope. You're going to find random jack spots around the map, which brought me back to Most Wanted 2012. You grab one of those cars. Now, one thing I did also want to mention, there is going to be jack spots everywhere, guys, but the thing is, though, once you finally start into Lockup your first time into it, you start with a B-rated vehicle. After you actually extract a car, you can then use an A-rated vehicle, extract another A+, and you're pretty much going to be so on. You can actually use an A+ and also an S+ vehicle. Once you do end up extracting more vehicles, I think it's 4 of them to get S+, you can actually start in one of your fastest cars in the game, man. The only thing is, though, if you actually wreck or like you lose that vehicle, then that's probably going to be fairly unfortunate, so do be careful. I mean, heck, maybe that way you might have to buy a second version of that car that you might like a lot, because you know what? You ended up losing that one in lockup, but hey, that's probably the fun of it. And also, the other thing I did want to talk about is after playing Lockdown for a few days, yes, you can obviously join a crew and do this with a few people. The funny part is, I actually feel like it's a better game mode solo. Let me explain why though. So we all do know you obviously can jump in with 2 other people if you would like, or jump in as a private crew and basically be in there by yourself. I did notice every time I actually played with random people, everybody pretty much went off and did their own thing. There's only a few times I actually went around and helped somebody or actually like extracted in the same truck, which I actually think happened one time over the past 3 days I've been playing it, which is honestly kind of funny. Like, you look at that and go, okay, so you can probably play with people, but it's probably going to be a better game mode solo. I would almost guarantee most players are probably going to be in the areas grabbing the money, doing what they have to do, grab the cars they obviously want, and then basically leave, unless you're going to be in there with a crew, and you're most likely looking to have like comms and all that stuff like, yo, you all ready to extract now? You got your cars, let's go hit this truck, let's leave. But no, instead I feel like each player is going to be off doing their own thing in different areas, grabbing money, going after a car they want, probably going after the motorcycle, getting into the lockup, grabbing that vehicle, and then basically going, okay, peace y'all, I'm going to leave now and hit this truck up. That is pretty much what happened to me over the course of probably 10 or so matches I have played so far, and I would say it's not a bad thing, but more of the line of, well, it's probably going to be a good game mode solo that you don't necessarily have to have a crew in, and I feel like most players are probably going to enjoy this more being a solo player than obviously being in a crew unless you do squad up with other people. But overall though, I would like to know what you guys think about the new Lockdown game mode in the comments below. Do you like it? What are some things you don't like about it? Would there be some things you change about it? I would say right now the game mode is actually pretty dang fun. I have been enjoying going after the cars and getting them. I just do feel like long term though, once players have all the cars they actually want, they are most likely not going to be playing this game mode as much. The only good thing about that though is you can always jump into this game mode solo, because I would probably say there's not always going to be a ton of players in that lobby, which I have to admit guys, having the whole map to yourself or even with 2 other people is actually really fun. Like, I really do enjoy how the map is designed with this, and I would say having different areas, having the money, different cars spawning, and of course you also get to ride the motorcycle really does make Lockdown a pretty dope game mode. Is it going to be perfect? Well, to be honest, probably not. But do let me know what you guys think about Lockdown in the comments below.